Guys, welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pods. Today we have Timothee Grassin, aka Timothy Grassin in English. He's leading role at TendoPay. He founded TendoPay and he's now the Chief Commercial Officer. Tim, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your companies?
Sure. Well, thanks for the intro, Charles. So as you said, I lead growth at TendoPay, which is a fintech based out of the Philippines, providing consumer loans to Southeast Asia. We were acquired last November, which marks my third exit. And every business I've founded has been in a completely different niche. Sort of the reason for that is because I'm always interested in new opportunities and learning new areas of expertise, but always bringing my sort of growth approach to different startups, but always channeling some of my curiosities.
Yeah, I can see that. It's quite interesting. So let's start with Stinson. So you did 8-ish years at that one, just like your second business, Candy Banners. Both you exited, both were acquired. Let's start with Stinson. Tell us about that one, the insights that you learned from it, and also how was the exit? Was it on purpose, and how did you go with that?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Well, Simpson being my first business, I had to learn everything from scratch, and I did it directly out of HEC Montréal, which was my university. As much as I had studied finance, I decided to pursue entrepreneurship just because I was a little insubordinate in my one and only role I ever held. And my boss at the time told me that I'd probably be best working for myself. So I followed
Right.
his advice, and I'm very grateful. We all often have conversations kind of laughing about it. But with that one, it was really kind of using a skill that I had developed in university, which was, building presentations. I realized that a lot of companies did it internally, and it was kind of a shame because the resources that they were using to do presentation, both the content and the design, were nor trained nor interested in them. And I was one of them when I was working in finance. And it was something that I realized could have potential. So over the years, it picked up and grew, and we became one of the leading presentation design agencies in North America, with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and it was a really good business. Like I would say, probably the best cash cow that I could imagine. And the reason for the sale was more of a personal reason, more than financial. I had brought on my ex-girlfriend into the business back then, and we parted ways. And for a multitude of reasons, she asked me to sell my shares, which I went with it just to keep things civil. But definitely a business that I kind of miss, and it's been growing ever since, so it's in good hands. But yeah, that was a tough one. And something similar happened with Candy Banners, where I saw an opportunity of something that not many people were doing, which was sort of productizing the development and design of banner ads, which I had seen one of my friends working on, and it was a very profitable sort of service he was offering. So I partnered with him, and we built it into like a productized business, which had systems and processes. Again, we really grew that one. And that one was a bit different because as we were, sort of on our fifth year of the business, we got the opportunity to build a new product in the Philippines, which I'll touch base on. But at that point, we had sort of found a way to automate the business and to detach ourselves from it. And one of our clients came along and asked if we would be willing to sell the business unit because they wanted to go into that production field. So it was a perfect timing for us. So we were quite excited about exiting the business, but a lot less pressure than the first one. It was more data driven than emotionally driven. So it was a lot more fun to do.
Right. And I want to touch base on that first one. It must have been incredibly hard, first to have your personal world fall apart and then your business. It's like your whole identity was like breaking up. How did you deal psychologically with that?
I'm still dealing, I'll say. There are days where I'm wondering, why I sold it, but like there was no alternative, let's put it that way. But yeah, it's very tough.
Yeah.
It's your first baby, I would say. and it's a good one at that. Like it provides you a very stable or very comfortable lifestyle. It's an
Mhm.
interesting product. I had relationships with all my big clients, with the employees. So it was part of my identity, and it still is in a way. Like it's what built me and what brought me to where I am now. But emotionally, it's pretty tough. Like it's
Yeah.
not your typical sale where you just build a business for the purpose of selling it, which I'm now doing. I'm much more detached. I guess I don't know. It's a really good question. I never asked other entrepreneurs if it was like the first one they ever built was like that, or if it was always the case. But yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, well, I've had something similar, obviously a bit less intense or dramatic, if I can attribute these words, but with my first business, Velux, with my co-founder and Phil, the guy that went to HSC, he was my best friend. And yeah, after that business, after we closed it down, things weren't the same, you know.
Hmm.
It's not just the business aspect of it, I guess, but it plays like a very strong role. For example, I became a digital nomad and I spent less time in my native Quebec, so saw Phil a bit less. But yeah, Phil's still a friend. But I guess these things you can call just life. You know, there's not he has the fault, she has the fault, or my fault. It's just it just is. You know. Now I think as humans we always need to deal psychologically with those things because these emotions they can either like bring us back or bring us forward. And I did have a tough time deal with that. Not only the fact that oh I would have to close one of my business down and take that loss, it was really hard for the ego, but just see that I also lost a best friend in the process, you know, someone I thought I would be developing stuff with for life. And I mean it's not over, it's not like a violent type of story, but yeah, I had to do some kind of shadow work in there and talk to people and externalize it and get insights. And with time it kind of heals, you know. But yeah, it's business is also quite personal for us obsessive entrepreneurs slash founders. It's not like this separate thing, you know, it is us in the end. And yeah, this it can get quite tricky when you take a lot of risk, especially, you know, you need to expect some lashback sometimes. But thank you for sharing that. The candy banners one, it led to Philippines and you having to deal with folks from there. You even decided to start a VC fund plus TendoPay. Can you tell us about these?
Sure. So yeah, Candy Banners led us to the Philippines because we were looking for a certain type of worker. It was a Flash developer type at the time, which was becoming rare in North America and extremely expensive. So we, so tried to outsource the task we had on, back then it was called Elance. I think now it's Upwork.com. And we had sort of contracted like a sample project to 10 different freelancers around the world. And the Filipinos just had like a really good work ethic, spoke great English, price was great. So as we got more projects that we started handing to them, we grew the team in the Philippines. And at one point, we just decided we wanted to go full blown Filipino, work center. So me and my business partner, we flew out there, big adventure for a few weeks. We had no idea where we were going. And we established an office, a structure, and started hiring. At the peak of Candy Banners, I think we had 35 developers slash animators in the Philippines. So it was a nice structure. And that's when we sold eventually. But as you said, it exposed me to Southeast Asia as a whole and the Philippines in particular. And we realized that there were a ton of opportunities out there. Entrepreneurs were quite, I mean, there were quite a few actually, not that many, but the opportunities were growing. So as we were working on Candy Banners, we were exposed to an opportunity to build a fintech, which ended up being TendoPay. So the idea came from our now CEO, Casper, to build a buy now pay later solution, which has transformed over time. Now it's a lot more focused on all sorts of financial products, but it originated as a buy now pay later. And it made me move to the Philippines for a few years and sort of build a big network there. So I think the VC you're referring to, Buco Ventures. So I'm an investor in it. I'm not actively participating. I help bring deals here and there, but That's something I was exposed to by other people. The same way I'm involved with iterative ventures. I also participate in reviewing deals for them, but I'm more sort of trying to make or get familiar with the VC space because I think down the road it's something that I might want to focus on more. I've been doing a bit of angel investing as well, and I think, you know, after a few ventures, you kind of get, first of all, interested in deploying some of the capital you manage to accumulate over the sales, but also you feel like if you can advise 10, 15 companies on things that you've built an expertise on, you might have more impact than trying to apply that expertise to a single project again. So that's kind of where I'm headed. I think after the earnout with TendoPay is over by the end of 2023.
Interesting. Two things here. VC, I wrote not so long ago on my LinkedIn that VC was like slow burners, aka like veterans giving out their money to fast burners, aka founders. Do you agree with that framework? And the second thing, I want to pitch a fintech idea to you once you're ready. So you can start with the first one, and again, I can pitch you my idea on the second one, which is related to the VC world.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with what you're saying. But for me, when I'm investing, I'm very active. So I want to be involved in a lot of strategic decisions because it's what keeps me alert. And like if I'm investing, it's because I think I can bring value to your business other than just the money. I'm not interested in just passively investing and crossing my fingers. I'm just interested in opening my network, my ideas, you know, bringing different strategies that I've learned for sales, marketing, etc. So I know what you're saying, and I think it applies to a lot of people, but I think there's different investor profiles. Even in the VC world, you know, you have, you know, your typical financial VC, but then you have operator-owned VCs where the people who invest have actually built startups, which is not the case for all VCs. I think those people are a lot more interested in being active in your, not day-to-day operations, but at least strategically somehow.
Right. And when you're that VC giving advice, it's always interesting to think, how can I add the most value in the shortest amount of time, which is kind of a coaching framework. So, oh, can I help them unblock emotionally, or can I fix this technical problem? Can I suggest them this technology? Can I suggest them this guy to hire, for example? It's always interesting to think about that. And that's, yeah, the most fascinating part to me as a VC. The idea I wanted to pitch you is that there's a problem in finance. It's that entrepreneurs, most of the time, they don't have the cash to start what they want. The banking system is outdated. It cannot make sense out of all of that data. It doesn't have the scale aspect to it. Banks are very slow moving, and even VCs to some degree, although they're way better. And founders do not want necessarily to give up ownership. So my idea, which has been pitched 1,000 times before, but why not a peer-to-peer lending platform a la Uber? I mean, we've seen Robinhood kind of democratize stock investing. Why couldn't my neighbor see my profile and my track record and drop 1,000 on me, and I give him 1,100 back a couple months later? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of crowdfunding platforms, I think, in the US for startup ecosystems, and there's a bit of complexity with, you know, the investor profiles, the regulations, and things like that. I can't name any because I haven't been in a North American ecosystem for a while, but like the last time I spoke to VCs, they were mentioning there's crowdsourcing or crowdfunding, sorry, for startups, and it's been quite popular. So yeah, I'm not sure if like the concept you're referring to is deviating from what exists already.
Somewhat, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
there's Republic, but my vision, and I don't think this has been accomplished yet. Yes, you mentioned the regulation part, so that's like something that I see as a barrier. Me, it would be, I don't know, registered in the Virgin Islands so that anyone, anywhere in the world could invest almost instantly. Yes, there's always the KFC, know your customer and stuff, KYC, sorry. But it would be done from an app, incredibly uh in a very easy fashion, just like ordering a Uber. You just like scroll in the morning while having your coffee, and you invest a $10 here, a $15 there. I guess legislation's the main obstacle to that, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna revisit that, because nowadays I'm very much interested in fintech and just micropayments. I think that capitalism and this market is one of the humanity's greatest invention, but people cannot get limitless capital. And the why, I mean, is quite simple, is that people cannot spend it wisely. They need to learn from spending. But I think if there's like an education aspect to the platform, and there's clear KPIs, and people are improving, I think we could have this market in which entrepreneurs may have limitless fun and create even more richness, even more so with AGI and all of these LLMs. Have you checked that nowadays, like the GPT era and all these large language models? Have you learned and research on these topics, and ideated some new business ideas or features for TendoPay? I called you
Yeah,
TendoPay, but it's TendoPay. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I try to spend as much time as I can on AI right now, whether it's for sort of my own personal knowledge or applying it to TendoPay. So, for content creation, obviously, it's like a no-brainer. It helps us pump a lot more than we used to. For sales as well. I mean, all sorts of messaging we're using. Now, we're starting to think about it for our what you call it, credit analysis of applications, because we've been doing a lot of credit modeling by hand or using existing models, but now that LLMs are allowing to sort of process data and output interesting new insights, it's something that we're investigating. But it's so vast. Like, even if I'm on like 3 or 4 different newsletters every day, I feel like I'm overwhelmed, even though I'm trying to stay on top of it. So there's always new use cases that I come up with daily, and I try not to get too distracted, because I'm still working on my earnout, and I want to make sure that we reach our targets to satisfy the acquirer and to get our payouts. But definitely I'm keeping ideas on the side for what I could apply it post acquisition. And I do have a few ideas here and there that will be leveraging AI and large language models.
Interesting. And what feedback are you getting from your customers? What do they want? Today I mentioned you like what I would want as a business, almost limitless capital, and be able to have equal, if not more power than VCs. What do TendoPay's customers are asking for right now, and in Philippines in particular?
So I'm not sure I understand the question, but I'll explain a little more about like our product, how it works, and maybe it'll help define your question a little further. So right now we're operating under a B2B2C model, whereby we offer, our goal day to day is to reach as many companies in the Philippines to provide TendoPay as an employee benefit. So we've sort of labeled it as an employee benefit. And once we're able to sign these Filipino companies, they will onboard TendoPay as a new suite of financial products, and they'll offer them to their employees. These include, of course, buy now, pay later product, a cash loan product, insurance products, rewards, and all sorts of financial related product that they can leverage as an employee benefit. And so we have two customers essentially. We have the company themselves. They have a certain set of expectations from us that we help them increase their employee engagement, reduce attrition, and things like that. And then we have the end user, which is the employee, and they have expectations that we offer extremely competitive interest rates, fast disbursement of loans, rewards, discounts at all the merchants we work with. So those are the two customer types.
Right. With buy now, pay later, what trends are you seeing? Because we've seen companies like Afterpay kind of struggle on the stock exchange, and I do believe that these companies are going to be behemoths. I do think their value is going to go way up. Why is that the case right now? Why are people not bullish on these stocks? And what are we seeing from the market? Are people borrowing way more than they can while salaries are not going up and they want like the latest tech? Like what trends are we seeing?
Yeah, so with most buy now pay later companies, they're operating on affiliate fees, so they're not relying on interest. That's why they're offering 0% installment fees, and they're relying on stores to offer them affiliate fees. So it's a pretty thin margins, especially considering the risk they're taking on, and we're seeing that risk grow over time. Like the delinquency on credit cards and car loans are going up. And I assume that's a trend that's affecting buy now, pay later companies as well. And we'll see that sort of, open up in the next few months as financial results come out. But my intuition is that buy now, pay later, as we know it, is probably going to take a hit in the short term, as the rest of the credit industry is. But the beauty with us, TendoPay, is that we're not operating under that same model. And we're operating under an interest rate model, which is feasible because in the Philippines, the sensitivity to interest rate is a lot lower because of the lack of other financial options. So just to give you an example, the credit card penetration is around 5% in the country, as opposed to 100+% in North America. So us giving access to this type of product is already so new to them that their interest rate sensitivity is a lot lower. But even that, in taking that into consideration, we're still offering competitive interest rates compared to banks in the Philippines. So we're offering something innovative that they can access normally while remaining competitive. So it's something very sticky to them. And the way we're mitigating our risk, as opposed to, Klarna or Affirm or other buy now pay laters, is that we're not collecting cash from our users, we're collecting it directly from their payroll. So it's a salary deduction model. So that means we're getting paid before the employee is getting paid, meaning it really reduces our risk. So we have a profitable business model that has a much lower risk, and that's what sort of makes us win long term.
On a global economy level, people have been talking about recessions for years now. Like, what are you seeing on your end, and where do you see AI playing into all of this?
Well, that's quite a broad question. So I'm sort of cautiously optimistic usually, but like you said, the recession discussions have been going on for a while, and as much as I like to be optimistic on that topic, I just don't see any indicators pointing in the opposite trend of a recession. So the way we're operating is we're assuming for the worst and sort of planning for it, but hoping for the best. And our business model is sort of recession proof in the sense that, yes, if there are downsizings in the companies we operate with, we'll have lower volume of loans, but it doesn't affect our risk in a sense. So we're not affected in that way. But on the other hand, if you have a recession in the Western world, usually that has a positive impact for Southeast Asia. And we saw that in 2008, where there were a lot of downsizings in North American companies and price compression. So they had to sort of find ways to get the same labor done for cheaper. And that's when they started turning to the Philippines for call centers and BPOs. And I suspect that's going to keep happening at a faster pace if the shift happens in North America. But now, like you said, there's the risk of AI starting to replace those jobs. You and I were in that field, and we're heavily studying it and sort of staying on top of it. So I think we have this impression that AI is moving at an incredible pace, and it's starting to replace all those 300 million jobs it's supposed to replace instantly. But I think it's going to happen a lot slower than we think. And the Philippines is starting to catch on to it. And I think, like, if they can adapt and start training their staff to sort of take on the same roles that AI is doing, but like instead training their humans to prompt that AI and sort of adapt to that, I think they shouldn't be impacted as much as we think. It's not like overnight all of the jobs are going to be replaced, but it's something I'm keeping an eye on. You know, being operating in the Philippines, I'm always curious how they're going to handle it. But I know that the industry is sort of on top of it. They're paying attention, and not just assuming nothing will happen.
I've seen that you do extreme sports, you play chess, and you cook a lot. How does that help you become a better entrepreneur?
Um, I don't know about better entrepreneur, but it helps me not become a worse entrepreneur. It helps me stay sane. Yeah, I picked up chess this year. It's very new, so I'm still terrible, but I find it fascinating, and I can't believe I never knew about it until now. But yeah, other than that, kite surfing, dirt biking, all sorts of crazy sports, and that's just because I build up a lot of pressure during my work. I put a lot of stress on my shoulders, so I like to release in a really insane manner. So that's, yeah, it's more of a balance thing than sort of pushing my own boundaries.
Yeah, chess is interesting. Me, I've been playing it since I was young. And nowadays I'm a bit doubting, because it's like beating the other. It's kind of win-lose type of game. But if you play just for the insights that you get from playing, I get a lot. You probably play chess.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like me, I see these players quitting on me all the time. They make an error, they lose their queen, for example, and they just quit. Me, I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, isn't that why you're here? Don't you understand anything? This is not about losing or winning. It's about having fun and getting insights, especially about human nature. Because an AGI an AI can beat you like right now and forever, even if you're the best player in the world. So I see kind of these behaviors, and I'm making all kinds of um some kinds of parallels with human nature and how humans operate also in their business. Let me ask you, what's your favorite style of play? Because mine is I play fast chess under 3 minutes, and I play super aggressive all the time. What is your style?
So I used to play aggressive and make mistakes. So now I'm starting to learn to play a lot more solid. I'm starting to pay attention and to learn strategy and theory. And I play rapid, so I play 10-minute games because, for me, it's all new still. So I noticed the faster I play, the more mistakes I make, and I kind of see chess as an art, and I want to take my time and sort of really analyze things rather than sort of go with the instinctive moves because I haven't built those instincts yet. Like I say, I'm barely a year in, and I can't take as much time as I wish. I take long breaks and things like that. So it's something I want to get good at eventually. It's just I can't prioritize it as much as I want to right now.
Right. Just one last insight for the listeners here. Just like poker is human psychology, and in speed chess there are bluffs. So sometimes just at the rhythm that you play and the noise that the pieces make, tack tack tack, the other person sometimes they do not see your bluffs. So even if you make a bad move, you can sense the fear in them, and then they miss some moves. So there's all that human psychology, which is fascinating, which I noticed nowadays. And there's a bunch of other fascinating insights. For example, when you check people, they get nervous, and then they start messing up the plays. Was nice talking, Tim. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, I'm available on LinkedIn, Twitter, Tim Grassin. So that's the main things. And then I'm available via email, tgrassin@gmail.com.